Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at white fur, the layering process and the colours involved. So if you struggle with creating white fur, especially when it comes to super bright white fur, then keep on watching because this one's going to be for you. So we're going to be building a realistic looking white fur patch based on the techniques I already covered with the first video of this series. So if you haven't watched that, then I recommend you go and do that first, as this tutorial will mainly focus on the colours, the layering process and everything like that. So I'll leave a link as a card up above for you guys. Let's start with the base layers. I usually go straight in with a warm grey one. This is an all-round good base for warm and cool toned areas, so I just layer this really lightly in the direction of the fur all over. I layer about 2 to 3 times and I keep the pressure really light, and I add this even in the super bright white areas so that all of my paper is covered with at least some coloured pencil. For cooler toned areas, I like to go in with a cold grey one, and I do exactly the same, just gently build up the tone by layering and shading back and forth. To identify the warm and cool toned areas, I look at the places directly next to any bright white tones, and I also look right into the shadows. It can be quite difficult to identify tones with white fur, but the longer that you study something, the easier it becomes to see, so spend a long time looking at your reference. If you have a background in your reference or anything like that, that can also be a good place to start for tones, as white fur often reflects your background colours, so have a real good look at your background as well. I find the key to white fur is to concentrate on the shadows and build those in first. This really helps if you're trying to convey that super bright white patch of fur. It might be difficult to find the shadows on your reference sometimes, so turning an image into grayscale I found is a really great help and can help you identify those specific areas. The shadows in my patch are actually cool toned, so I'm adding down some sky blue and I'm using exactly the same process as before. I build a couple of layers of this before moving on to my next tone of some light violet. Now this pencil isn't actually available from the Faber-Castell Polychromos range anymore, so just use a really light purple. Anything that you have would be fine. Using blue and purple tones in cool areas, it pairs really well, and some of you may be thinking that this is madness to add purple and blue to white, but trust me on this, it really does work, and as I said, it's all about building shadows. That's what really develops white fur. After those are added in, I blend out with a little bit of white pencil to just smush everything together before going in with the next layer. And if you want to learn about how I blend with a white pencil, I'll leave a card up above, as it's a really handy technique and tip for building your white fur. Next we add in some warm grey 3, and with this I start to build in a little bit of texture over the entire thing. For darker areas I group the lines closer together, and for brighter areas they are spaced out a fair bit. Notice how I'm also concentrating on the shadowed sections and leaving the bright white parts untouched almost. Shadows are key, people. Now we're starting to darken those shadows by introducing some olive green yellowish. This is a dark colour and might not necessarily be your first choice for white fur when looking at your pencil pot, but it's one of the best colours you can use for shading white fur. After this, I go back in with some more blue and purple to further build the cool toned areas, and I shade a little bit more with the warm grey 3. You'll notice that by developing the cool tones, the area I've left untouched starts to appear warm, and I've only added minimal pencil to that area. Now if you're building white fur that has a warm tone, instead of using blues and purples, you could go in and add some light flesh tones, some really light pinks and also some yellows. But again, you want to use them really lightly, use them in the same way that I'm using these cool tone colours, just build slowly, and yeah, you'll build a really nice warm toned section. Then we get to the darkest colour of warm grey 6. Am I mad? Maybe, but as I said, it's necessary to develop your shadows for that white appearance. So this is where we are adding this tone. To the shadows we go. I shade this a little and make some small fur lines to represent the shadow between each individual fur strand. Adding this down really makes the rest of the patch look white, despite the fact that we've actually added down a bunch of pretty dark and unusual colours. I also like to add in some walnut brown into my shadows, as when it's paired with that olive green yellowish, it creates a super nice shadow tone whether you're building warm or cool toned shadows. You can add pretty much any colour to white fur and it'll still look absolutely amazing. You just have to add it lightly, make sure you layer lots, and again, pay attention to your shadows. My best advice for white fur is to have fun with it. Experiment with different colour combos and see what effect they have. Use some darker purple tones and darker blues and see what that does and if you like the effect that it gives. Don't let white fur daunt you, as it's actually a really fun colour to create and you can have some proper creative fun with it. So just experiment a little, get to know your colours, identify your warm and cool tones, and just have fun and see what kind of combination of colours and pairs that you can come up with. I really hope that you enjoyed this video and that you now feel a lot more confident when trying to create your white fur. Don't let it daunt you, guys. Have fun with white fur. It is probably one of the easiest ones to create once you get the hang of adding in all of these unusual colours. It's really, really fun. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss any of the videos I'm uploading each week to this fur series. Next week we will be covering some of that cream fur, which I know a lot of you have some problems with. Let me know in the comments below which part of this tutorial helped you the most and if you'd like me to make a separate video out of anything I've covered here. If you like this video, again, make sure you give it a big thumbs up with that button below, and I can't wait to share more of this series with you guys. I know you guys are enjoying it so far, so I will see you in the next one. Bye!